There's something nobody really tells you about worth. It doesn't arrive. It doesn't get handed to you after you've done enough, loved well enough, or finally become whatever version of yourself you thought the world wanted. It was already there. The woman who understands this truly understands it, not just as an idea she's read somewhere, but as something she feels in the way she walks into a room. She's different, not louder, not harder, just settled in herself in a way that's almost impossible to ignore. We've been so thoroughly trained to confuse worth with approval. And I get it. It starts young. You learn that being agreeable keeps the peace, that making yourself smaller makes others more comfortable, that giving more than you have is somehow generous rather than self-destructive. And somewhere along the way, you start building your entire sense of self on the outside. On what he thinks, what they said, whether or not you got the reaction you were hoping for. It's exhausting, honestly. And it never quite works. A woman who has done the real work on herself, and I mean real, not surface, not affirmations taped to a mirror, she's stopped waiting for confirmation. She gives, yes, she's generous, warm, present, but she gives from fullness, not from that desperate place of hoping that, if she gives enough, someone will finally decide she's worth keeping. That distinction is everything. Self-awareness is where it starts. Though it sounds simpler than it is, it's not about knowing your favorite color or your love language. It's about sitting with yourself long enough to understand what you actually want, separate from what you were told to want. What kind of life genuinely excites you? What are you tolerating right now that you've just accepted as normal? What version of yourself are you performing versus actually living? These aren't questions with fast answers, and that's the point. A woman who values herself doesn't rush past them. Part of that work, the part most people quietly skip, is looking at your flaws without flinching, not performing self-love while secretly hating what you find. Actually sitting with the contradictions in you, the parts that don't fit together neatly, and deciding they're allowed to exist. Kierkegaard wrote about this. Nietzsche too, in his way. The idea that greatness doesn't come from achieving some perfect inner coherence, but from embracing the tension within you rather than hiding it. Your imperfections aren't obstacles to your power. In many ways, they are it. The woman who's made peace with her own complexity is far more magnetic than the woman performing polish. And here's something society gets genuinely confused about. Humility. We're told it's virtuous. And it is, but not the kind that makes you apologize for taking up space. Not the kind where you deflect every compliment or shrink your accomplishments so no one around you feels uncomfortable. Real humility is quieter and more confident than that. It's knowing exactly what you've built, what you're capable of, what you've survived, and not needing to shout it. The woman who carries herself with that kind of quiet certainty doesn't need anyone's applause. She's already given it to herself. Boundaries come from that same place. And I want to be precise about this because the word gets overused to the point of losing meaning. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're not walls or coldness or emotional unavailability dressed up as self-respect. They are simply the lines that tell the world and yourself what you will and won't accept, what you'll give your time to, what energy you'll let into your life. When you set them clearly, without apology, something shifts. You stop leaking yourself all over people who are never going to value you anyway. And the ones who stay, who respect those limits without needing to be convinced, they're the ones worth keeping close. There's something else worth talking about, and it's a little harder to pin down, but you'll recognize it when I name it. It's the difference between moving through the world from scarcity versus abundance. Scarcity sounds like, what if no one better comes along? What if I lose this? What if I'm asking for too much? Abundance sounds like, the right things find me when I'm aligned with my own value. That shift isn't naive. It's not about pretending everything will work out or bypassing grief or struggle. It's about refusing to settle out of fear. It's about trusting that you don't have to compete for love or manufacture connection or earn your place in someone's life. Women operating from scarcity attract chaos. Not because they're flawed, but because the energy of desperation is legible. People can feel it, and it tends to draw exactly the wrong kind of attention. The woman who isn't afraid to be alone, who genuinely enjoys her own company and her own life, who isn't secretly waiting to be rescued by a relationship, she's the one who ends up in the healthiest ones. Funny how that works. This is why independence matters so much more than it's given credit for. Not just financial independence, though that absolutely matters. Knowing that your stability is yours, not borrowed from someone else's goodwill. But emotional independence too. The ability to feel your feelings, process them, and not outsource your inner life to someone else's management. The woman who comes into a relationship whole, not looking for someone to fill in her missing pieces, brings something entirely different to the table. She brings herself, and that's the thing another person can actually connect to. Intellectually, she's curious and self-directed. She reads, questions, seeks out conversations that challenge her. She's not waiting for a partner to inspire her into becoming someone interesting. She already is. And that energy of a woman who is genuinely engaged with her own life and her own growth, it's irresistible in the truest sense of the word. Here's the paradox, though. All of this independence, this self-sufficiency, this fullness, it doesn't close her off from love. It opens her up to the right kind. She doesn't confuse partnership with rescue. She doesn't need someone to complete her, which means she's free to actually choose someone who enhances her. That's a completely different dynamic than what most people are used to. It's two whole people choosing each other, rather than two incomplete ones clutching at what the other can provide. She can also ask for help, which is worth saying. Independence doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean suffering in silence or refusing to let anyone in. It means she knows her worth well enough to lean on someone without losing herself in the process. Vulnerability and strength aren't opposites for her. She's figured out that one requires the other. The deepest relationships she builds aren't rooted in neediness or performance. They're rooted in mutual respect and the understanding that both people bring something real to the table. She's not looking for validation. She's not looking to be fixed. She's looking for someone who sees what she's already built in herself and wants to build alongside it. The more she becomes herself, fully, unapologetically, the more naturally she draws the right people in. Not by chasing, not by shrinking or stretching to fit. Just by being so completely at home in who she is that anyone worth her time can't help but notice. That's the thing about a woman who truly knows her worth. She doesn't have to announce it. You just feel it. And maybe that's the most important thing to understand about all of this. The work isn't about becoming someone else. It isn't about performing a version of high value that you've seen somewhere and decided to imitate. It's about excavating who you already are. Underneath the conditioning, the people-pleasing, the years of quietly accepting less than you deserved and choosing her. Deliberately. Repeatedly. Even on the days when it's hard. Because there will be days when it's hard. Days when the old patterns pull at you, when loneliness makes settling feel reasonable. When someone who isn't right for you says something that sounds almost like what you needed to hear, and part of you wants to believe it's enough. Those are the moments that actually define this. Not the easy days, when you feel clear and confident and grounded. The days when you're tired and a little unsure and you still choose yourself anyway. Those are the ones that build something real. Self-worth isn't a destination you arrive at and then maintain effortlessly. It's a practice. Some days it looks like saying no to something that would have drained you. Some days it looks like ending a conversation that was starting to make you small. Some days it looks like doing the boring, unglamorous work of showing up for your own life, your goals, your health, your peace, when no one is watching and there's no reward coming immediately. That consistency, that quiet daily loyalty to yourself, is what compounds over time into something unshakable. A woman who has built that kind of relationship with herself carries it everywhere. Into job interviews and first dates and difficult conversations with people she loves, into the moments when she's being tested and the moments when she's being celebrated. It isn't arrogance. It's something much steadier than arrogance. Arrogance needs to be fed. What she has doesn't need anything from the outside. It just is. And the relationships she builds from that place, romantic or otherwise, have a completely different quality. There's no scorekeeping because she isn't operating from deficit. There's no quiet resentment accumulating because she said yes when she meant no. There's no performance because she's not trying to be chosen. She's choosing. That shift, from being chosen to choosing, changes everything about how love feels and what it becomes over time. She also knows, and this part is subtle but worth saying, that not every connection is meant to last. Some people come into your life and reveal something to you, about yourself, about what you want, about what you'll no longer accept, and then they leave. Or you leave. And a woman of high value doesn't interpret that as failure or rejection or proof that something is wrong with her. She understands it as information, as refinement. Every experience, even the painful ones, is shaping her discernment, making her clearer about who she is and what she's actually looking for. This is why she doesn't rush. She doesn't force timelines onto her life because she sees someone else hitting certain milestones and starts to panic that she's falling behind. There is no behind. There is only your life, your path, your pace. The woman who internalizes this stops wasting energy on comparison and redirects it entirely toward herself, toward becoming more of who she actually is, toward building a life that feels genuinely hers, rather than one assembled from borrowed expectations. What I want you to take from all of this isn't a checklist. It isn't a set of rules to follow before you're allowed to consider yourself worthy. It's simpler and more radical than that. You already have what you're looking for. The worth, the value, the magnetism. It's not something you build from scratch, or earn through discipline, or finally unlock after enough self-improvement. It's something you uncover, something you return to, something that was yours long before anyone told you it had to be proven. As we reflect on the journey of becoming a woman of high value, one undeniable truth stands out. True power lies not in seeking out a partner to complete you, but in fully embracing your own completeness. The essence of being a high-value woman is not rooted in wealth or status alone. It is in your ability to live with authenticity, to create a life that is yours by design, and to attract only the people, experiences, and opportunities that align with your highest standards. A woman of high value understands that she does not need a rich man to validate her existence. While wealth and status can certainly be attractive, they are not the core of what makes her valuable. She knows that when you are truly confident, truly independent, and truly self-sufficient, wealth, whether emotional, financial, or intellectual, flows into your life naturally. This is the paradox that often eludes many. The more you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, the more the world opens up to you, with or without a rich partner. The pursuit of a high-value life doesn't mean rejecting love or companionship. It means choosing love that aligns with who you are. It means understanding that relationships should be based on respect, mutual admiration, and a shared desire for growth. A woman of high value knows that the right partner will come when she's ready, and when they meet, they won't complete her. They will complement her. This process is not without its contradictions. We are told that love should be selfless, that relationships should require sacrifice, yet a woman of high value understands that self-respect and authenticity are not negotiable. She knows that being too much for someone is never a flaw. It's a sign of knowing her worth. When society tells us to settle or compromise too much, she doesn't give in. She remains firm, not out of pride, but out of a deep, unshakable understanding that she is worthy of being loved as she is. In many ways, becoming a high-value woman means walking a path of contradiction. It is about embracing your imperfections and flaws, not to seek approval, but to foster the confidence to live as your true self. It is about wanting success and love, but not from a place of desperation or fear, but from a place of abundance and confidence. It is about understanding that while a partner can add joy to your life, you are the source of your own happiness. And this is where the shift happens. When you stop looking for someone to complete you, you open the door to relationships that are not driven by need, but by desire, respect, and shared vision. You stop chasing after what you think you need, and you start attracting what you truly deserve. True power, then, lies in knowing that you are enough as you are. When a woman fully embraces this, when she steps into her power, not by diminishing others, but by standing tall in her own light, the world begins to meet her there. She does not need a rich man to feel rich, nor does she need validation from anyone to know she is valuable. She is the definition of abundance. She is whole, powerful, and confident. And this is why the right man, one who is truly deserving of her, will always see her as irreplaceable.